Hi guys, and welcome to Quack Media. I'm reviewing the match between London and Derby. I'm here with Sally Higginson, who's currently a freelance, and Lucy from Nottingham. Say hi, Sally.
Hello.
Say hi, Lucy.
Hi, Lucy.
Fantastic. Right, so to review the match, first what we're going to talk about is the seeking game. We thought that had played a very big role. Derby weren't too confident, London were very confident. Lucy, how do you think the seeking game went?
It was a bit of a surprise, really, because did Derby catch all three snitches? No, Derby caught the second and third snitch, which was a surprise because they had none of their typical seekers. I think they lost the seeker they had from BKC, who wasn't here, but Andy Cook did a great job seeking for the first time and did really, really well. I think he caught the snitch in the second game, and Tom Hardman, who was murking from York in the place of Lewis Bly, caught me in the third game, and he was very good. But London have good seekers, they just couldn't quite grab it. I think both Claire and Fiona nearly caught me at points, but not quite there, so it was tight.
So it was a tight match. Both teams matched each other on the snitch game. So on the subject of tiredness, we did expect that Derby would get quite tired, and London, having the subs, might have an easier time of it. How did that turn out, Sally?
It didn't turn out as expected. Whilst Derby were getting tired, they were still pushing 110% all the time, where some of the key players from London were showing their tiredness and having to sub off a lot more than they were expecting.
Okay, so do you feel like with those key players subbing a lot more, do you feel like that really hindered London?
I think it did a bit. Derby, whilst they didn't have many subs, they were constantly in the same formation. They were getting really practiced at it, despite the fact they haven't trained very long. Okay. So they were getting a lot of synergy in that attack, and they were constantly attacking with the same people, constantly getting the goals. Whereas London, because they were having to constantly switch, their gaming style was changing too frequently.
Okay. So Lucy, where do you think London went wrong in this game?
I think their main problems was they didn't focus enough on getting bludger control back. I think taking a beater up with a bludger to help regain bludger control would have been really helpful. I'm sure Derby had bludger control for at least 70% of the first two games. I think that really hurt London because it let Derby use Tom Hardman, who's very big, very strong, and Andy Cook, who's very difficult to stop, just pile through their chasers, and one bludger wasn't enough to stop them regularly enough. Mm-hmm. I think they also got really hurt by Derby having two bludgers, so I think more aggressive beating really would have aided London. And I think there maybe was Derby really seemed to know how to slow the game down to their pace when it suited them, which helped them get over the tiredness. So they'd put in a big drive and then maybe hold the quaffle for a while once they regained possession, where it seemed like London just get the quaffle, set off and going, which is great to exert pressure on the team that's getting tired, but if you're not converting, I think they maybe need to set the pace a little better in future.
Okay, because otherwise you're just going to tire yourself out a bit,
exactly.
Aren't you? Right. So about Derby's defensive beating, it seemed to be quite solid, and it seemed to stop London making really good pushes. What do you have to say about Derby's defensive beating?
It's very good. They made sure that they always had at least one beater back, which is always a key thing to do especially against counter-attacks. The beaters worked together very well, obviously practiced together a lot. There's that synergy which London just couldn't break most of the time, which is why they couldn't get back that counter-attack after Derby scored.
Absolutely, yeah.
Can I give a quick shout out as well to Phil, Liberty and Jen? I think all put in really good shifts for Derby as beaters. I think aside from it's Phil and Jen's first proper tournament or first proper Quidditch games, and they did really, really well and completely outplayed the London beaters 70-80% of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Andy actually said that Phil was a player to watch out for in the future. Do you feel like that's an accurate description?
Yeah, absolutely. He's really speedy. He's got a good shot on him. Maybe, as with all beaters, you've got to learn when and when not to throw, and when not to commit yourself forward. And I think he doesn't have the getting bludger control back quite down yet, but definitely one of the more impressive performances I've seen from a new player.
Okay, that's quite cool. So can I get both of your standout players for the match?
Oh, tough choice. Andy Cook from Derby certainly excelled himself, but I'd have to go with Liberty overall from Derby. She was excellent today. Every time she had that bludger, London was scared and pushing back away with the quaffle. They were not getting through her without a terrible fight.
And Lucy?
I think we're going to end up naming all the Derby players at this point, but again, Phil did such a good job, really, really held down the beating game. Liberty, like you said, did fantastically, but the two Derby Merc players, who I know they have great connections to Derby, but Tom Hardman and Olivia Payne did fantastic jobs point chasing, which is a position that Derby really kind of lack in chases normally. I think London struggle to get past the halfway line quite a lot of times, and Tom Hardman scored a lot of goals by driving through players, and definitely the most difficult offensive player to play against here today.
Okay, that's cool. So London did struggle this time. So what was the score, Sally? Do you have the scores?
Final scores. The first game was 70-50 to London, with the snitch catch going to London. The second game was 15-0 to Derby, with Derby getting the snitch catch, and the last game was 60-0 to Derby, with Derby getting the snitch catch again.
So that's it, guys. Tune in next time for our next review of a match, or a preview even. I've been Rob.
I've been Sally.
I've been Lucy.
Tune in to Quack Media next time.